symbol of that change disappeared faster than the manual transmission. Every year, hypercars become faster, more powerful, more intelligent, and somehow less human. Manufacturers spend millions chasing perfection. Gear changes happens in milliseconds. Computers decide exactly when to shift. Traction system predicts mistakes before drivers even make them. The result is astonishing. Modern hypercars are faster than racing cars for not so long ago. But somewhere along the way, the relationship between the driver and the machine began to change. For decades, the manual gearbox was the ultimate symbol for driver involvement. You controlled the car, you chose the gear, you decided when to shift. Every smooth gear change felt earned. Every mistake was your own. But performance kept advancing. Automatic transmission became faster, they became smarter, and eventually became impossible to beat. One by one, manufacturers abandoned the manual transmission altogether. It seemed inevitable. Technology had won, the manual was finished. At least that's what everyone thought. Because while the rest of the automotive world was moving in one direction, a small company from Sweden was preparing to do something completely different. Not Ferrari, not Lamborghini, not McLaren, not Bugatti, but Koenigsegg. And what they created wasn't just another hypercar. It wasn't just another anniversary special. It wasn't even just another engineering masterpiece. It was a car so ambitious that so many people struggled to understand how it could possibly exist. A car that somehow combined the soul of a manual transmission with the performance of a modern hypercar. A machine that looked backwards and forward at the same time. The machine is the CC850. And to understand why it matters a lot, we have to go back to where the entire Koenigsegg story began. Long before Koenigsegg became a name associated with world records and million-dollar hypercars, it was simply the dream of one man, Christian von Koenigsegg. As a child, Christian watched a short animated film about a man who built his own racing car. For most people, it would have been a fun story. For Christian, it became an obsession. From that moment on, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to build cars, not to work for a company, not to design cars for somebody else, but to build his own. It was an absolute ambition. Sweden wasn't exactly known for producing exotic supercars. The automotive world was dominated by giants. Ferrari, Porsche, McLaren, companies with decades of history and enormous resources. Christian had none of those things. But what he did have was persistent. In 1994, he founded Koenigsegg Automotive. Many thought the idea was unrealistic. Some thought it was impossible. Starting a hypercar from scratch was one of the hardest things anyone could attempt. Yet Christian kept moving forward. Years of development followed, years of setbacks, years of pressure, but eventually that dream became real. The world saw the first Koenigsegg production car, the CC8S, and suddenly people began paying attention. The car wasn't just fast, it was different, innovative, uncompromising. A glimpse into how Christian believed performance cars should be built. The CC8S became the foundation of everything that followed. The beginning of the company that would eventually challenge the biggest name in automotive history. Most manufacturers celebrate anniversaries with special paint colors, maybe a badge, maybe a limited edition. But Koenigsegg had something far more ambitious in mind, because they weren't interested in celebrating the past. They wanted to bring part of it back. By the early 2020s, hypercars had reached an extraordinary level. They were faster than ever, more advanced than ever, more capable than ever. But there was a growing problem. Many enthusiasts felt disconnected. The numbers kept getting bigger, yet the experience wasn't always becoming more exciting. Everything was optimized, everything was efficient, everything was controlled by technology. And while there was no denying the performance, something emotional was slowly disappearing. The manual transmission. For decades, it had been one of the most purest forms of driving experience. But in the hypercar world, it was becoming extinct. Not because manufacturers hated it, but because physics did. Modern automatic transmission simply shifted faster. They delivered better acceleration, better efficiency, better lap times. The manual gearbox couldn't compete, so manufacturers stopped trying. One by one, manuals vanished, and eventually many enthusiasts accepted reality. The manual story was over, but Christian wasn't convinced. As the 20th anniversary of the CC8S approached, Koenigsegg began discussing ideas for a celebration car. The obvious solution would have been ease, more power, more carbon fiber, more exclusivity. But that didn't feel meaningful. Christian wanted something different, something that celebrated driving itself, something that honored the connection between the human and the machine. And that goal led the company to an engineering challenge unlike anything they had attempted before. Because what if there was a way to bring back the feeling of the manual transmission without accepting its limitations? At first the idea sounded impossible, then it sounded ridiculous, and eventually it started sounding achievable. Once people discovered what was hiding beneath the carbon fiber, the CC850 became even harder to ignore. Koenigsegg had never been known for restraint, and the CC850 is no exception. Behind the cockpit sits a 5.0-litre twin-turbo V8, an engine developed from years of relentless innovation. Compact, lightweight, and unbelievably powerful. This wasn't just about generating big numbers, it was about creating an experience. Every input matters, every shift matters, every moment matters, because the CC850 remains incredibly lightweight for a car of its capability. The performance is absolutely ferocious. The acceleration arrives with violence. The engine responds instantly. The sensation feels less like driving a road car and more like controlling a machine that constantly wants to break free. Yet despite all that power, the CC850 never feels disconnected. That's the magic. The technology enhances the experience rather than replacing it. The driver remains at the center of everything, and that philosophy separates the CC850 from many modern hypercars. It isn't trying to remove you from the equation, it is trying to make you part of it, which is exactly why people fell in love with it. And when orders opened, the reaction surprised everyone, even Koenigsegg. What happened next proves that enthusiasts weren't ready to let go of the manual after all. When Koenigsegg reviewed the CC850, the response was immediate. Enthusiasts were captivated, collectors wanted one, journalists couldn't stop talking about it, and production quickly became one of the most hottest topics. But the excitement wasn't just about the exclusivity, it wasn't just about the investment value, and it certainly wasn't just about the performance. The excitement came from what the CC850 represented: hope. Proof that innovation doesn't always mean abandoning tradition. Proof that progress and emotion can exist together. For years, enthusiasts had watched their favorite features disappear: manual gearbox, manual interaction, road driving experience. The industry kept moving forward, but sometimes it felt like it was leaving something behind. The CC850 challenged that idea. It showed that technology could preserve emotion rather than erase it. That engineering could make driving more engaging rather than less. Because beneath the carbon fiber, beneath the horsepower, beneath the engineering brilliance, there is a simple message: driving should be fun, driving should still feel special, driving should still involve the driver. The CC850 isn't the fastest car Koenigsegg ever built, it isn't the most powerful, and it probably won't be the last technological masterpiece to emerge from Sweden. Because while the rest of the industry focused on making the car smarter, the CC850 asks a different question. What if intelligence could make cars more emotional? What if technology could preserve the things drivers love instead of replacing them? And what if the future didn't require abandoning the past? That answer arrived in form of a clutch pedal, a gear lever, and a hypercar that by all logic should never have existed, yet somehow it does. And in doing so, the CC850 achieved something far more meaningful than just breaking another record. It reminded the world why people fell in love with driving in the first place.